everybody. So this week we had two chapters, business presentations in action and organization and outlines. So 2 questions from each, and this is Module 9 discussion. So the first question from the chapter, Business Presentations in Action, the first question I wanted to answer for this one was number 1, which is outline the 4 qualities of an impactful soundbite as described in the text. Reference the chapter to support your explanations and share a personal or professional example of a soundbite or slogan that aligns with these principles and evaluate its success and impact. So for this first question, the kind of the 4 qualities of an impactful soundbite are: be clear and concise in your message, use vivid and dynamic language, and make sure it's easy to repeat, and make sure it's memorable. So I think all of these factors, these 4 factors that kind of create a soundbite, are important because they make it so that your audience that you are trying to aim towards has an easier time understanding the message that you're trying to get across and makes it memorable. So that was one of the 4, is making sure it's memorable. And if it's not memorable, then people aren't going to, it's not going to have the effect that you would hope it would. So the question asked for us to take a soundbite or slogan to talk about and evaluate its success and impact. So I wanted to talk about the very old soundbite slogan that is "Got Milk." So the "Got Milk" whole soundbite kind of slogan type thing it started in 1993, and it was just a response to low milk sales. And so they had to figure out, the company was like, what do we do? How do we get people to drink more milk? It wasn't an aim of like, oh, people need more calcium, people need more milk, they got to do it for their health. It was solely due to the purpose of low milk sales. And so I think it was extremely successful. That soundbite lasted forever. I mean, you still see it places in 2025, over 20 years later, and people are still using and remember where that came from. So I think that is a really good example of a successful soundbite. And then the second, that was on page 2 as well, that talked about the 4 qualities of an impactful soundbite. And then my next question that I wanted to answer about the chapter Business Presentations in Action was number 2. And number 2 is using the text as a guide, describe the 5 stages of telephone conversation. Reflect on a phone call you've made or received in a professional setting and explain how it followed or deviated from these 5 stages. Use specific insights from the chapter to analyze what worked well and what could have been improved. So the 5 stages of a telephone call. This is on page 4 and on page 5. Page 5, it goes into the kind of like table of the 5 that gives like little descriptive details. So the first one is opening. That's kind of like your hello, hi, this is so-and-so. And then you have your feed forward, and that's the purpose or kind of like setting the tone for the conversation. And then the third one being business, and that's just kind of like the business of the conversation, like the kind of the meat of the conversation, essentially. And then the feedback, number 4. And so that is, okay, we're finishing up. You've received all the information I needed to tell you. Like, what do you have for me? And kind of wrapping everything up. And then closing, that is the 5th and final stage of a phone call, and that is saying your goodbyes, or see you later, or I'll see you at the meeting later today, whatever that may be. And so with those 5 pieces of a telephone conversation, then reflect on a phone call you've made or received in a professional setting. So Something that happens to me quite a bit at work is I work in a pretty big building, and so people will call your phone and like other staff, and they will call you and they won't say who it is because they expect you to see like their code or their extension and be like, oh, I know exactly who that is. But sometimes we use other people's phones, or if it's someone we don't work really closely with, it can be hard to recognize their voice, especially over the phone. So a lot of times people will you'll answer the phone, hello, this is Monica, da da da, and they'll be like, hey, like, did you do this today? Or did you hear about this? Or what are we doing here? And I'm like, who is this? Like, the information that I give you is going to depend on who I've already spoken with, information that I've already given to certain people, if I've already had meetings with certain people and they know more information about something than, say, another department. It has a huge effect on how the conversation goes, because it's like, okay, hang on, pause, put everything on pause. It's like they're trying to skip the opening and kind of skip the feed forward and just jump right to business. And I understand, because it's easy to do and just be like, oh, coworkers, they're going to know exactly who I am and da da da. But it kind of like sets it back a little bit. It's like, okay, we got to backtrack now because we didn't do this in order, these 5 steps. So it get kind of challenging with that. And so that was my professional example of a phone call that could be improved upon. And so the next, I'll go into organization and outlines chapter. And I'm going to answer question number 1, which is on pages 3 and 4 of that chapter. And the first question is, discuss the 3 main components of the rhetorical situation as outlined in the text, and draw upon your personal or professional experiences to illustrate how understanding the audience, context, and purpose shaped the effectiveness of a speech or presentation you delivered or witnessed. So going to our organization and outlines, we talked about that being on page 3 and 4. The 3 elements involved in a rhetorical situation are the set of expectations inherent in the context, the audience, and the purpose of your speech or presentation. So rhetorical situations are really important because you need to know your audience. You need to know the purpose of what your speech is. You probably have an idea going in, okay, this is what I'm going to be talking about today. This is what I want the audience to draw from the speech, from the presentation, and, having a set of expectations depending upon the audience and, knowing the context of the situation you're going into and understanding, who am I talking to, your audience, is super important because your tone, your just everything included in your delivering of a speech is going to change based off of, it should change based off of who you're talking to. Are you talking to higher ups? Are you doing a project presentation where you're hoping to get the approval to continue on with this project? Are you trying to convince someone to utilize your company instead of somebody else? Are you trying to promote your business within the community? All of those situations are going to have a different approach to them. So you need to be knowledgeable of those situations before you go in. You can kind of have your main purpose thought out, but the other smaller details are going to change, and your purpose could change as well depending upon who you're talking to. Like I said, like if you're talking to, oh, come to my business, use our business, they're great at this, or you're talking to your boss, oh, can I get approved for this? Can I get the budget to be able to complete this event or project? So those are all super important to that one. And what was the rest of that question? Okay, draw upon your personal or professional experience, illustrate how understanding the audience, context, and purpose shaped the effectiveness of a speech or presentation you delivered or witnessed. So I could use a experience that I had a couple years ago at my company. We have typically like a yearly set of seminars that Most of the training staff will deliver to specific groups of people who sign up for like a New Year's challenge thing where they either want to improve their strength or their cardio, lose weight, whatever their goal is. And so let's say it was supplementation seminar, and you have people who are already nutritionists showing up to that event or that seminar, and just you're not understanding who the people are that you're going to be speaking to, because it could be anybody from the membership base who is involved in this challenge. So those were kind of tricky for the training staff, because they were asking, who am I delivering this message to? How do I know if this is going to be interesting for them? How do I know if I'm using the appropriate illustrations? Or how do I know how to keep their attention in the best way? Is this going to be an older population, or is this going to be a younger population I'm speaking to? So that was something I could relate to that one. And then the second question I wanted to answer from Organization and Outlines chapter was number 2. So number 2 is the text emphasizes the importance of organizing your speech effectively. Explain why organization is crucial for both the speaker and the audience. Use a specific example from your life where clear or unclear organization impacted the outcome of a presentation or communication. So, the text emphasized the importance of organization in the speech. So that was kind of I think I kind of took this question as like talking about the outline of your speech or message. And that was on page 17 of the text. And so that one kind of talked about, let's see here, the 4 main parts of your outline are your intro, and then, so like, hello, this is who I am, let me kind of build up my credentials here, and let people know my experience, and why you should even bother listening to me. And then the body of the speech, that's where we have like our main ideas, and then from the main ideas, we kind of go into our supporting ideas, kind of a subset of that main idea, and just supporting topics for that, going more into detail of the main idea. And then the conclusion, so that's kind of, wrapping it all up, putting a little bow on it. And then the residual message. So the residual message is kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, what did you draw from that message? What were you able to obtain and learn from that speech? Or what information have you collected? So, what was the rest of that question? I'll explain why organization is critical for both the speaker and the audience. So it is super important to be organized within a speech, especially. And I guess I can kind of talk about this in my example of real life. So it's important because if you are the person giving the speech and you do no preparation at all, and you try and go into this, I'm just going to wing it, it's going to be fine, I know what I'm going to talk about, and then you get into the situation and you're like, I'm kind of drawing a blank here, or, what topic should I move into next? So I have covered a workshop before. One of my staff who normally does this strength conditioning floor workshop asked me, hey, I'm not going to be able to be here tonight. Could you, like, kind of emergency situation cover for me and come do this for me? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I can absolutely help you out here. But I had nothing prepared. And it was one of those days where I was just super busy. I did not have an hour to sit down and try and prepare something for the instance. So, okay, that's my job. I'm super well versed in exercise and fitness and everything else, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. Showed up, had everyone there waiting, and I'm like, shoot, how do I start this? Where do I start? Do I start with machines? Do I start with free weights? Do I start with cardio equipment? Do I start with how to understand where you're at in your fitness journey? What's appropriate for you? Do we talk about Olympic lifting? Do we stay with just the basics? And So I was trying to kind of gauge my audience. Okay, these are people I've seen in the gym before. They have some experience, but some I've never seen before. So what the information that they receive needs to be different. If somebody has never been in the gym before and they have no idea and they're going around using the same weight on every machine and they're not sure how to use free weights and they're not sure the purpose of that and they don't have the athleticism to do Olympic lifting, it's a huge variety of people. And so that was kind of I wouldn't say a stressful situation, but I had to do a lot of like thinking on my toes and okay, let me move on to the next topic. Let me try and fit all these different topics in within a specific amount of time. So that would be kind of a real life example there. There can be miscommunication if you don't have an outline, because if you go and you start talking about something and then, okay, let's move on to the next topic, but then, oh, later I remember something about this topic that I wanted to say, and then you kind of do this big loop around, and then people are like, whoa, wait, what are we talking about? So that's miscommunication is, I think, the biggest risk of not being organized and not having an outline. So those are my answers for my 4 questions this week for discussion number 9. And I look forward to listening to all your guys' videos. Have a good night. Bye.